What's happening, everybody?
Hello.
Welcome back to the studio. How's everybody doing on this fine Tuesday? It is hot here in LA. It's been very much summer-like lately.
Yes, very confusing.
Yeah, no kidding. One week it feels like January or December, and the next week it feels like the middle of August already. So let us know if we got everything, if you're hearing the volume and the audio correctly or well enough. I think we should be pretty good. Obsidian says, I hope Charlie has a cool effect for us like last week. It should be a tradition. You know, that would actually be cool as long as I meant to do it. When it happens because of failure, probably more fun for you guys to laugh at, but not as much fun for me. Okay, couple reminders. Good enough for rock and roll? See, I love that. First off, Thursday, remember, we're doing a live build of this microphone. I'm going to give one of these away, and Matt is going to be joining us on the broadcast. It's going to be awesome. Bring your DIY and microphone questions because Matt's going to answer them all. He's great with that stuff, and you're going to see me build. Hope I got a steady hand with the soldering iron so I don't burn myself. I'm going to build that thing live. We're going to give one away. We'll have the rules, how we're going to do the giveaway. We'll talk about that Thursday, or I'll get that in the description soon. I'm still tweaking my idea a little bit to make it fun and also something we can do in real time without wasting a ton of time, right?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, today we are talking guitars. So we're going to go over 3 different simple but very effective ways to do doubled guitars. Now there's more than this, and I think Ernesto and I were talking, we'll do some more of this in the future. We'll even use different gear that isn't amps and stuff like that. But today, we want to look at 3 really effective ways. We're going to use the same song we have. We're going to double track with the same guitar. We are going to use multiple guitars, which we left in the other room. That's all right, we'll get it in a second. And then we're going to look at our multiple amp setup, but we're actually going to use some pedals we have here, which we'll get to in a minute. That way it doesn't matter how many amps you have. You can have one amp, multiple pedals. You can create different sounds. Now, we're using an amp. That doesn't mean that these can't work if you're using amp sims, Axe Effects, whatever you have. This is really just general concept stuff, and you should dial in the tones you like and try some of the stuff with whatever your setup is, whatever that happens to be, right? Mm-hmm. We like amps. Amps are fun. Pedals are fun. So that's what we're going to do today.
Yes.
Right? Any more microphones? You can always need another mic. Yeti, yeah, it's fun building those mics. I've actually only built one. Here's the other cool thing about Thursday, before we get started officially with today, is I'm not a professional like electronics guy builder. You know, I'm pretty good at making cables now because we have made everything in here. That's a necessity. I have built a microphone from Matt before, and it actually worked the first time. I've done, general fixing here, changing caps that need to get changed out, the, occasional gain pot with a piece of gear, that's pretty simple, but I am not a tech guy. And the cool thing with all of these kits is they're laid out so well that even if you're not a super tech person that way, you can still build this stuff and actually learn to do it that way so you learn more about it. But you don't have to be super techie nerdy guy. I am not, and I'm going to prove that to you on Thursday when you see me build this sucker. It's a great way to learn. You can build nice microphones for a lot less money than some that you would buy already put together, and you get the satisfaction of you doing it all yourself, which is cool, I think. I'm almost already out of coffee, and we've just begun. We're going to have to start having an intermission for me to go make coffee in the middle of these things. So. All right, so here's what we have. We're going to work in headphones today because we have the lav mics on, and we're going to, so we can kind of keep the volumes up, hopefully sounding good. First sound. Oh, actually, maybe we should cover the amps first. So let's see, here's what we have going.
To Ultimate Studios, there you go.
Crap, I got key commands that are set the same. I gotta remember I can't do spacebar when I'm in the ATM software. Okay, we got the same Framus as last week, so you can see it there. we picked the Heil PR30 and the Sennheiser 421 because that's the one that more people liked the combo of that we kind of pulled up, and it actually does sound pretty freaking cool, I will say. Mike's, you want to talk about the mic placement, where you put them? Because you put it on there, not me.
Yeah, so it's basically right on the edge of the dust cap?
Dust cap.
Dust cap. So it's slightly off from the brightest and loudest part of the speaker, which the majority of people put it on. So,
yeah, and I would say that's a fairly typical place for us with these kind of sounds. You can move it in or out depending on what you need. Also, your amp, guitar, all these things will be variables in where you may or may not place that microphone. This is a great, it almost always works, you know, even if it's not 100% the right sound, you can put it up and you're going to get a pretty decent sound no matter what mic you put right there. So it's a good starting point at the very least.
and
right,
and on the video you can see the 421 is on the left and the PR30 is on the right.
Cut us back in here. Ooh, fancy. Yeah, okay, so why don't we just hear what that sounds like? You want to play that a little bit?
Sure.
So first off, we're starting just his guitar.
Yeah, so this
Straight into the Marshall.
Yeah. So that's clean. So now I'll switch over to distortion from the Marshall. Can't go wrong with that.
Nope, that's going to be our starting tone. So why don't we? I'm going to go back here to this computer. And we're going to record like just 2 sections of this tune. So it's not too long. Let me see where I'm at here real fast. I think I got you 2 bars.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, hold on. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so that's our starting point. Now, Ernesto, what is, to get a good double, what is the most important thing?
To get a good double, meaning in what? Just
Is we got to have separate takes, right?
of course.
That's
yes.
the big thing.
Yes.
Not
Don't copy paste. Yes.
No. For a couple reasons. One, if you copy and paste and pan it left and right, it's gonna be mono.
Yeah.
It's just gonna come right back. Then you can pull up a delay and start moving it backwards and that sort of thing, and that can work, but you can get funky with phase a little bit.
Yeah.
And it can also, if you go far enough to where you get a real left and right, you might start getting things that are out of time.
And it will sound chorusy.
Yes. You can do the Eddie Van Halen thing, which is kind of that way on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea. Or even, I was listening to, we were listening to No More Tears.
Yeah.
That sounds like it was that way too, because
Yeah.
Zach's tone had that symphonic on it and everything, and it doesn't sound like it's double tracked. It sounds like
Yeah.
they had 2 amps or one source spread twice, or maybe 2 amps
Yeah.
recorded with the same take. But
Yeah.
so it's wide, but not necessarily left and right. We're going for left and right. You know, even though this is kind of an AC/DC kind of song, this could be a modern heavy metal, whatever. So that's the kind of vibe, overall vibe we're going for. So the most important thing is no matter what you do, it's 2 separate takes.
Yes.
Now, I don't have a click on for him at all in this, so
Yeah.
we're not necessarily recording the whole song, so you might, in the beginning, it might be a
Yeah.
little off, most likely because of my playing. So what we're gonna keep this same setup. We're not gonna change a thing. And I'm gonna simply go, here, play real quick.
I'll just turn it to clean so it doesn't hum while we talk.
Play.
beautiful hum. That's when the distortion is going.
Okay. I think
Should be good.
I have this correct now.
Yep.
We're going to find out if I'm correct or not. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go. So again, same amp, no change whatsoever, just 2 separate takes. All right, couple things there. One thing is if we were doing this for real, one I'd have a click on, I got my cable under the wheels, that you would probably want to do your takes until you had them nice and tight. However, sometimes those little tiny inconsistencies, as long as the part's the same, will make it feel a little bit wider. Where if it's dead on perfect, it might sound cool but be a little bit narrower. So your miles will vary depending on what kind of vibe you're going for. If you like it more human and loose, or if you want to have it, you know, like just super exactly the same. But either way, it would be like getting the best take first, so they line up. But let's take a listen to that. This is actually, I'm gonna go to the chorus. It's got a great space.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone already creates a pretty big tone. Another thing is you don't have to, I'm just trying to phrase what I'm going to say here. I know there's, you know, you can quad track and there's a lot of things you can do, but you don't have to build a lot of stacks of something to make it sound big. As a matter of fact, sometimes getting one good tone and really good double track sounds a lot bigger than double tracking it and then stacking on top of that, especially if it's similar sounds. Things have to be freaking perfect or it turns into a mess right away. This is a bit more forgiving that way, which sounds cool. Let's see if I missed something here. What brand of coffee? Yeti. I'm all about the Javalia, man. Love the Javalia, except there's this one kind from this store in Taipei that I got, which was actually a coffee shop / guitar store / drum store. I mean, it was like heaven. And they had really bitchin' coffee. Input, that's what it's called. Regal Beagle, I used to grind my own beans. I got lazy. I should go back to that, it was better. Dakota said, needs a good first take for a good second take. That's so true. Oh, yeah, sorry, Ben, I should have clarified this. I am not summing these 2 mics to one channel for this. We talked about it, and just in case we want to like go through the different sounds later for some on one of the broadcasts or something for everybody, we decided to track the mics separate. What you're hearing right now, though, is each mic at the same volume. So they're not, which maybe we should do that real quick. Actually, let me set up a loop on that B section, so you can hear just the different microphones. All right, I'm gonna mute. So let's start with, let's see, PR30 is second, right? Yeah. So this will be just the 421s. So that was just what the 421s sound like. Here is the PR30. PR30 is a little smoother. And here's all 4 again at the same volume. Now here I'll turn the PR30 down a little bit so it's heavier to the 421. And now I'll do the opposite. This will be heavier to the PR30. And I know these volumes are a little different, guys. So that's some different options. If I was doing this in a session, we would have made a decision on what we liked. I would have bussed them, and it would have been one track instead of, we would have had 2 tracks total for this instead of the 4 that's in there. But like I said, we decided to keep them separate.
But what's a good way to use this if you have it separate though? You don't have to use automation. You can actually change the value of each mic. Let's say when the vocals come in, bring the darker sound in. And then
yeah, you do get, on that side of things, you do get more options. I would rather just track a whole other take with a whole other sound than have that, because that doesn't sound fun to me. But yeah, that's a total possibility.
Yes.
Obsidian, no, Ernesto's not listening to a click. It's just me. Which is that gap in the front is, which is why it's a little bit off.
It's all about our own personal clock inside, man. If that is off, sorry.
And mine's a little off in the beginning of this section. Dakota says 421 definitely have the Van Halen sound going there.
There you
Plus, there's he is such a huge Eddie guy. There's something inherent in some of the way he plays certain things that definitely has an Eddie vibe to it for sure, which is cool. All right, so that is, you need to go grab the other guitar.
Oh yeah.
With that, and I'll talk, or do you want to talk? And
No. I'll go grab it.
all right, so I'm gonna work on jokes for next time, so we have some. But we're gonna use, now what we'll do is we'll keep one of these guitar tracks, and then we're gonna add, we have another fret. Oh, ouch!
Oh, that's what happens.
That was no bueno. Guitar down. Guitar down. He's got another Framus guitar that sounds really bitchin' that we're gonna use for this, to do the double track. So let's see if I missed anything. Make sure. The buffer right today, guys, YouTube is running a little slow. There's about a 35 second delay from what we're doing to what's getting actually pushed out. So if I'm behind on anything.
Okay. Let's see here. So we can make sure it's tuned.
Yeah, to me, the Yeti, the 421 is a little scooped sounding, but it has that push that makes it kind of jump out. The Heil's actually a little bit smoother. But the 421 has that cut, which is kind of cool. It's actually a pretty cool combo of mics. Only my first time actually doing this combo, or using this combo. So tuning time. This guitar is one of my favorites right here. And actually, I'm gonna set this up. Let me open our double.
Beautiful.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep the first guitar we did already. Actually, we'll keep that one. It's a little off the first bar, but that's only because I'm not giving him a click track. I'm making him guess where my downbeat is. And my downbeat is not right on the click.
So,
because that's not my style.
Watch out for this.
Which is probably why I don't play a lot of drums anymore. There's a joke in there somewhere for sure.
And here you go. Get my headphones.
Yeah, the Audix D2. That's a cool thing with any of this combo of mics. They're all going to give you something a little bit different.
Excellent.
You know, a D2 in a 57, a 421 in a 57. I've used the PR30 in a 57, you know. All right, he's gonna double check L tuning. Tuning is important. Very, very important.
All right,
See
ready.
what that sounds like. Cool. Ooh, this is a different, hold on, play. All right. So we're gonna I'm keeping your first take,
Yeah.
which I know the first bar is a little
Yep.
off. It'll come on after that. So now, but we could go A-B now between same guitar 2 takes, different guitar 2 takes. Well, we can A-B once we record this one.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go. It will be better when I get it in the proper place. Here we go. Ooh, let's check out what this sounds like. I'm gonna go to the chorus because with those open chords at the widest. So here is what we just did. Okay, here's the previous. New. Little deeper. So that sounds a bit more open to me than the other because you've got a different texture with this guitar.
Uh-huh.
Tones, nothing else changed, just the guitar,
Yeah.
and those pickups are different.
Yep.
And it the left and right's a little bit different, which creates a little bit more depth to me. Which I like that combination of those two, to be honest with you. Although they both sound freaking
Yeah.
good. What is this guitar model?
It's a Framus Pantera, which they kind of changed it around a little bit, but it's basically it's a hybrid Les Paul. So you got a Fender scale, and these are two Seymour Duncan's 59s. The original comes with a JB, which I changed because a little too in your face. So I went good old vintage 59s. And this is ebony fingerboard. So it's a little brighter than that Super Strat. It's a little brighter. Usually fixed tail pieces are brighter, usually. And yeah, but other than that, they're kind of both similar because, you know, not both are like very high output, like metal. And it's just kind of straight rock. I like him to be versatile, you know, not just like, can I do like 10-string low guitars? It's like, it's the wrong guitar for that. So
10-string?
yeah. Because everybody uses 7 and 8, I have a 10-string. So you go so low you cannot even hear the note.
But it looks cool on video.
Yeah.
You imagine it's down there. Yeah, this Framus is, I love this guitar. It always sounds good. And actually everyone that comes in, we use this a lot with, we even doubled some stuff with Bat Farm with that. Even Blood Feast, when they came in, even though they were using theirs, I remember Hunter kept picking that guitar up and playing it. He just didn't like, wasn't long enough scale for him.
Yeah.
But he loved the sound of it. Everybody likes this guitar. It just sounds freaking cool. And it looks good. And that's what's most important. All right, so there, one more time. Here is the double with these two. Single. They both sound good, not a giant difference. The two guitars is a little different left and right, and I think creates a tiny bit more depth with it. And sometimes, you know, this is a game of inches. You're not going for drastic tones, because that's the other thing. You don't want too much of a different tone, right? Because if you're playing the same part and you have drastically different tones, your image can feel really off. And it can make you feel heavy to one side in a way that you don't want it to, especially if you're looking for that kind of guitar thing that just pushes things forward. If you're recording very different parts left to right, then maybe you do. Maybe you have a big fat thing on one side, maybe you have a bright jangly thing on the other, if they're different type parts. But
if you're going for the Rolling Stones feel.
Right. You know, or even AC/DC used to do that sometimes. Yeah. But their sounds were fairly, they were very cohesive. Yeah. Which is some of my favorite stuff, man. Mm-hmm. Can't go wrong, can't go wrong.
All right.
Looking forward to the new Ernesto album. Exclusively 10-string guitars.
That's right.
Oh, man, I can see some fun YouTube videos of that. Do you think we would get flamed if I did that and made fun of 8-stringers?
Well,
I'd piss off a lot of guitar players. I don't want to do that.
Yep.
It'd be pitchforks and torches. Oh, question, what gauge of strings?
10s.
Is that common for you? What's your...
Always 1046. Die Hard 1046.
See, that doesn't mean anything to me, so... Is there a reason? I'm assuming a couple of the Obsidian...
They should know. They should know what 1046 means.
Okay. To me, that's about when I hit snooze the third time on my alarm.
The same way you say, 3-ply wood, blah, 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 snare, head. I go like, what the hell is he talking about?
But I don't even know what I'm talking about then. But I just read the box.
Exactly. But every drummer knows what that means. So.
See, this is why you never let a drummer be in charge of the microphones, because you get stupid shit like that. Okay, so now, here's... Again, this is only a few ways to do this. There's a lot of other options that we'll get into later, because there's a couple things I want to explore that we want to not have like 4-hour broadcasts. We want to make them concise, to the point, everybody chime in, get feedback, that sort of thing. But this is the third way we're going to do it today. And this is a different take on a multiple amp thing, because that is something you used to see a lot when you'd have complete different setups for the left and right. They would still be set to be in the ballpark of each other, again, because it's not, when this kind of double tracking, it's not about drastic changes left and right. It's like minor changes make the stereo image wider, fatter, deeper sort of thing. So 2 amps was one way to do it. Now, if you don't have multiple amps, and I'm assuming there's a lot of people that have 1 amp, but have lots of pedals, you can treat the pedals as your amp setups, which is how we're going to do this next one. So let me cut in. Let me show you what we're going to use here. I still got audio? Yeah. So amp number 1, I don't know, which one's going to be amp number 1?
We'll start with the AVH. Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be amp number 1. I'll let you explain the pedals.
Yeah. So basically, I took the AVH because it's kind of like a modern sound. Everybody loves the way it handles, the normal gain and the ultra high gain. So it's very versatile for a lot of modern music, right? People like the attack, the way it's tight. And then I used the Ecstasy to get a little more into the older plexi, Bogner, modded Marshall type of sound. Still, this pedal is amazing. There's so many switches. I got dizzy just looking at it. But it's great. So if you want to fiddle with a pedal, this is awesome. And it also has a boost pedal on it. So you can really use that for live playing, and then you got that boost. You can fine tune how loud you want that boost and go make everybody leave the room, right, when you hit that boost. Oh, the guitar player hit the boost again. All right. And so
typical.
Yeah, but I EQ'd them enough so that they sound somewhat similar, so I don't have Pantera sound on one side and then I have Angus Young sound on the other. So I had them somewhat similar, so it's not so drastic.
So we'll start, let's just use one guitar for this.
Yeah.
Because you could go 2 pedals, 2 guitars. I mean, there's a lot of cool different ways you can you can explore to create
Yeah.
the tone you want to. But for the sake of just hearing our two amps, so to
Yeah.
speak, we'll just keep the same guitar. You gonna use
Yeah.
that one?
I mean, I have it plugged in, so
Okay.
it doesn't really matter.
Uh-oh. Popo. Get the 5-0 coming by.
So,
Obsidian says 1046, all around good choice. Ty the sound guy says he's a
Thanks
10,
for the
11,
approval.
52 guy. Ario, I use a PRS Swamp Ash and a Clapton Strat. Marshall amp and my ugly 18 cranked. I can't wait for the Blood Feast stuff to come out because that's actually a PRS, don't remember which head, and a Mesa Boogie that we used in combo for all of that stuff. Jason says 1154 for him.
well, yeah. I mean, sometimes for rhythm, yeah, you want to go heavier gauges. If you drop your whole tuning, which is what a lot of guitar players do, they drop their guitar, let's say 2 whole steps, 3 whole steps, they tune the whole guitar to B. Yeah, you need heavier strings. You know, you can go 12, you know, freaking 58 if you go really low for rhythm. But soloing, man, I don't want to be soloing on 11s. Sorry.
At least no one's flamed me for my stupid drummer talking about.
You know what? I'm going to
Pedal.
change the guitars because
All right, change that. Drunken Taros, will you try the A range on that? Are you asking if we're going to try the A range on guitars? The A range mic pre. Uh-oh, look out. That thing fell. What's up with that stand? It is not liking guitars. 'Cause
No.
That just fell too.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, that's why.
The A range mic pre. I should get a hold of Trident and grab one of those to do. It is one of my favorites on guitars. I absolutely love it. The A range EQ I love on guitar too. If that's what you're asking, I will try to get one so we can hear those because they are pretty freaking cool. Okay, let's go. Let me open up my third round here. Okay, so we're on EVH.
So, here we go.
I have to say I love this pedal, and I think the 5150 amp, the 50 watter that you have is
Yeah.
one of my favorite amps for anything hard rock.
Oh, yeah.
It just always sounds
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the few amps where you can put it at 12 o'clock and you're ready to go.
Yeah, literally. Okay, so let me turn the loop off. Let's track amp number uno,
There you
which
go.
is our 5150 pedal. Okay, yeah, I got the picture in there. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Hold on, I gotta put it on both microphones.
Oh.
What's going on here? There we go. There we go. Here we go. There. It's tighter.
Yeah.
Like, especially on the A section with the picking, it felt very
Yeah.
articulate to me,
Yeah.
which I liked very much.
Well, that's why a lot of people love the tightness for, you know, all that, you know. I mean, you can't beat this pedal for that.
See, we need to do a song like that.
Yeah.
Just gonna get another drummer to come in and play it.
All right. So, what are we doing? Double track or are we switching?
No, let's double track with our second amp.
So, there you go.
It's a little different in the mid-range.
Uh-huh. I mean, now let me see if I want to.
No,
make,
but I didn't mean that as a bad
Yeah,
thing.
no,
I
no,
just my initial.
Let me see. That's better. Excellent.
All right. You ready to go?
Yep.
Here we go. I would say overall, this is the more modern
Yeah.
of our sounds so far. Because Yeti said, sounds a little scratchy compared to the previous.
Yeah.
Which is the difference between the EVH and the Marshall.
Yeah.
Big time,
Uh-huh.
actually. It has that almost fuzz, grainy
Yeah.
kind of thing to it.
Oh yeah.
And how hard? You're not even pushing it all that hard on the gain.
No, 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 no. I mean, that's the thing. The EVH has so much gain that you really have to be careful.
All right, let's see what this sounds like. Let's go to the chorus. This had a very different flavor.
Yep.
Also, for reference, we're listening at everything at the mics are at the same volume, so you're hearing equal amount. Here is our previous, that is the Marshall with the 2 guitars. Here's our original double track, which was just the Marshall with this guitar right here.
Yeah.
2 guitars. New amps. That's definitely the most modern sounding.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap, that's different. But that's one cool thing with this. If you're into guitar pedals, which we are, you could have one amp that you like that does well with guitar pedals on the front. You know, the Marshall obviously does, the 2000 is great on its own too. But if you don't have that, or you have something else that maybe the distortion isn't the greatest on, treating the pedals as your amp sounds, you could come up with so many cool tones that way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could do the same thing if you're working with amp sims or whatever. Like I said earlier, in case you guys missed it, any of these 3 techniques or whatever are not only, you know, it's not mutually exclusive to the amps. You could do it with whatever setup you have at home. This is just ways to create sound. So if you're working on amp sims, or if you're working with, you know, a Kemper or whatever, you can do the same damn thing. You just got to tweak stuff. For us, we like the amps and the pedals because it's fun. But having, you know, we could easily go in there and get the Boss distortion pedals and create a whole different vibe. I would say the Marshall on its own, with the way we had it set, which is no EQ, no compression on any of this. Only whatever. What is your setting on the amp, by the way? Just so we know.
Pretty much everything is 12 o'clock on the EQ. Maybe the middle is just slightly at 1 o'clock, but everything else is 12 o'clock.
And what about up here?
And then here, because you know these pedals are voiced so different, probably can.
Oh, you want to see that?
Yeah, that way they can see. if they weren't looking. So you can see how much I'm boosting the gain on the Wagner, right? The gain is all the way right here. That's the gain. So it's cranked. So to have the same amount of gain on the EVH, look how much I have to pull it back, you know? So it's crazy. So the EVH is definitely geared towards that really cutting high gain, right? So if you like that sound, this is the pedal to get. And it's also a very bright pedal. So look at the treble, because the Marshall by itself is a very spiky amp, right? So the highs are very typical on the Marshall. My treble is almost at 0 on the EVH. If I turn this treble off, you know, you'll be running out of the room, you know? So, so you have to be careful how you deal with the treble compared to the amp you use, because I run this, for example, into an EVH head, and it's fine, right? So every amp on the clean channel is voiced different. So always be careful with the high end from the pedal and whatever the amp is voiced, you know, like what's the natural clean tone of the amp. It really makes a difference. So a Fender will totally react different to one of these pedals than obviously a Marshall or any other, or like a PV or like a Crate or any one of these small portables that you might have.
Well, we noticed with the Framus head one time when we were
Yeah.
doing that is a darker,
Yeah.
way more kind of almost vintagey,
Yeah.
almost 70s kind of sound. We were cranking high
Yeah.
end to get it to sound
Yeah.
even remotely close to,
Yeah.
you know, 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. So this JCM 2000, like any Plexi type JCM 800, you know, so any of those type of Marshalls, they're always very inherently bright, you know. So if I go clean here, you got is the input on there?
Oh, nope,
Yeah.
it's not. Hold on. See if you're on now.
Am I?
Hold on, let me see what I don't know what channels I have open. Real quick, like.
There it is. See, so this is pretty crispy, you know?
And that's just the clean tone on the Marshall.
Oh yeah. So the one thing, for example, that this amp has, which you also have to be very careful, you know, because any amp, especially modern amp, they have these little switches. This has a deep switch, right? Because this amp shares one channel and one EQ for both channels. You have to be careful with this deep switch. Look what it does. So when I had that on, this deep switch, which adds probably like a lot of 200 to it. Ooh, right? So that did
holy
not
crap.
work with these pedals. So I had to turn it off. So now these pedals have their own low end. So it doesn't mess with this. Well, I mean, you can hear it. I'll turn it on. It'll sound like fart.
Oh yeah, my headphones is like.
Yeah, so always be careful with low end and high end, right? Because the mid-range is basically what characterizes any amp, but you have to be careful with lows and highs.
Yeah, you focus on the mids more, but then
Yeah.
the low and high kind of get out. So Eric says it will blend better and won't get in the way of the bass track and kick. Because I think that was in reference to the EVH. Yeah, John says EVH more articulate and thicker. I love the EVH, but it depends on your vibe. I mean, that's the cool thing here is I like the Marshall too if I wanted a more just outright vintage kind of round tone. I would go that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can obviously EQ and do things after the fact, but one thing I will say about distorted electric guitars is get it as right as you can when tracking. You know, not only recorded well, but the tone that you're hearing in your head that you want to be, because the less EQ you can do with these, the less trouble you'll get into later on down the road in the mix. Not that EQ necessarily automatically gets you in trouble, but when we're dealing with distortion, especially if you start double tracking, we start playing with the mid-range and boosting, you can get down the road and kind of go, oh man, why is my tone so fizzy or shrill or something like that? So get it as close to what's in your head while tracking, That'll make it a lot easier down the road.
Yeah.
Regal Beagle Studios, so was your very first take of the night amp distortion? Yes. So actually the first 4 takes, well, the first round of double tracking was amp only with 1 guitar. Second round of double tracking was amp only with the 2 guitars. We didn't go to the pedals until the 3rd round. And it's drastically a difference. I like the first one better. Just sounds more full, and the mids are not scratchy. Yeah, I think Yeti's in on the Marshall. Hard to beat, man. I mean, that's the cool thing is you got some that are like the EVH, some that go the Marshall, you know. We all have our preferences. Eric, this is a JCM 2000.
Yes.
Does the amp have any noticeable crunch set at noon? Well, not on the clean channel. What is your setting for the amp distortion?
Let me see. The gain is at 1 o'clock on the lead. The classic, because this has a lead channel and no, not channel. It's just a gain control. So you have the lead gain and then you have the classic gain. So the lead gain is about 1 o'clock, and then the classic gain, which is this clean tone, that's about 11,
Man,
10, 11.
That is glassy sounding.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Marshall clean tone, you know. Now, if you have a single coil, I can do this here. I can go single on these guys. See, I can go single with this, and now. So you have to be careful, see? This is pretty.
That hurts.
So now imagine if we put one of these guys. So you get that single coil with distortion.
Oh wow, that's actually kind of cool there.
So always try, if you have a guitar with single coils, you gotta go through the testing, you know. See how the pedal reacts, how the amp reacts, everything.
Paul says, one of my old bandmates had a JCM. He chopped off the L's so it said Marcia, and he painted it pink.
That is awesome.
Freaking awesome.
That is awesome.
There's another question I saw I missed somewhere. Somebody said something. Ty the Sound guy asks if there's going to be vocals over this, because the sound of the vocals would for sure inform the way he would want to record the guitars. We, at this point, there's no plan. There easily could be. We did this track purely so we had something to work with on all these broadcasts. It gave us fresh drums and bass. We'll do some drum stuff with this too and whatnot. But this really was more for us to use and explore on all these broadcasts to have a new track, so we were bored of what else we had. Now, on the topic of if there were vocals, if this were a band, and whether it was ours or working with someone else, we would obviously know what the singer sounded like, that sort of thing, preferences of what the artist likes their guitars, vocals to sound like. So yeah, that would inform what I was tracking almost subconsciously. I wouldn't necessarily be going, well, the vocalist does this, so I'm going to track this here. It would just kind of be happening. Now, however, there's things that you could do tracking the vocals too. You could change microphones, you could run it through some effects and do different things to where, let's say you had a vocal that had a very strong particular mid-range, but we went with the EVH and all that sound that had that very forward mid-range. I may use a microphone that is not very forward in that mid-range. I may even put an overdrive on it or something else, but then soften that up even more to let it sit around the guitars. Yeah. So there's stuff that you can do. You would have to get creative at that point, because you'd be like, oh crap, I have this sound, I need to make this fit, so what are you going to do? Cool thing about that is it might lead you in a different direction that you normally wouldn't go, because we all tend to get set in our ways sometimes, if not on purpose, but just by we're working, we know what works, or you've done it enough so you pull that up. If you're all of a sudden presented with a guitar tone that you think clashes with your vocalist, now you got to sit there and go, well, you can either re-record the guitars, that's an option. You could heavily EQ the guitars, that's an option. Or you could choose a different mic and a different setup for the vocalist and see where that leads you to something new and unique. So there's ways around it. But yeah, I mean, I do agree that if you know who you're recording, those things probably are just swimming in your head. Oh, I wouldn't do that because of this. Like, I wouldn't have that guitar sound because of this vocalist, whatever. Do you have a preference in dealing with lower wattage amps, cranked, or using bigger amps
Well,
in ISO so you don't go deaf? Oh, that's a great question. That is something we haven't done much, and we need to.
well, I mean, if you're worried about going deaf, yeah, just don't.
I mean, one
Don't
thing that we
crank.
have in here that stick the amp over there. I can hear my lav. Trying not to. Sorry, guys. With having the live room, we can crank it up. The volume isn't so much a big deal because we're not sitting in front of. If you're on a stage, a lot of the times now you're not going to get to do the AC/DC thing and take your 100-watt head out and crank it up. Sound guy's going to be yelling at you. You know, it's just a different thing now. We're getting a lower wattage amp that'll break up faster, so you can get that kind of tone without having to volume is great. However, I have worked with a few artists that brought in lower wattage amps where we were getting these types of tones that way, and it is a bit different vibe because the amp breaks up different, or a lot of the times it's a 1x12, or even one artist had a 1x10 that was, I can't remember the wattage, it was only 5 or 10 watts, and it sounded so freaking cool. When we double tracked it, it was huge. The bottom end tends to be a little different because the cab, a 1x10 or 1x12 cab is not going to sound the same as a 4x12. Those are other variables inside there.
Yeah.
But I think you can get pretty cool tones with a lower wattage amp.
Oh yeah.
And you can stand in front of it and not go deaf, which is a plus, especially on a stage. But I think that's worthy of an experiment. And I think I know who I can borrow some of that stuff from. So we can compare it, pull it in here with the Marshall, or even get the EVH. And we could have old and new on the amp side, and we recreate the old and new kind of thing on a lower wattage amp.
Well, even EVH has a 15-watt. They call it the lunchbox. And I heard that in a room in school. Amazing. I mean, you didn't have to turn it that loud. It was just like, well, that's all I need, you know. So
the problem I see with that is if you were live, when it's getting that same tone at a much lower volume, is you're inviting the crowd to talk over you. So sometimes I see loud guitars as a deterrent to the people in the crowd talking while you're playing.
yeah.
Oh, you're gonna talk over me? Brr!
Yeah, but for
I'm
recording for recording purposes, yeah, lower wattage. I mean, Jesus, you can probably get the same.
You know what? We're gonna make that happen. Actually, we're gonna get that in here and do some of that. I love that. That's a great freaking question. Can you discuss panning options, do's and don'ts, specifically for this kind of thing? All right, I'll start off with my thoughts on this. I'm going to reference this song only, and it's the general tones. I'm most likely going to take these guitars hard left, hard right, because I like that sound in this big kind of rock thing. It's cool. Because I'm going to bring the drums in a little bit. I may leave drum rooms hard left and hard right, because just by nature they're a bit more distant sounding with the transient, so they'll sit behind it. But I like my guitars to have the outside edges. So I'll bring overheads, toms, ride, hi-hat, all that in a little bit so they're not crowding the outside. Now, as far as like a mixing and arranging thing goes, a little trick I like to do, I don't know if it's a trick or not, but I'll take the verses sometimes and I'll pan them in slightly. So instead of maybe 100% out, they're 85, you know, or 80. They're just in. That way when you hit the chorus, it just that little bump out makes the whole fucking thing feel a little bit wider. And it's like, oh, it gets more exciting. Even if you're not sitting there going, oh, boom, all of a sudden the guitars are 15% wider. You do feel like it kind of engulfs you a little bit. So like subconsciously, just you're listening to it, it makes it feel bigger.
Yep.
That's some of the things I'll do.
Sure. It works.
Don'ts? I don't know if there's any, do you know any don'ts that you wouldn't do?
Don't have two guitars pan center.
Especially if it's the same guitar?
Yeah.
Unless you like that sound, then it'd be cool.
Because it's defeats the purpose. You know?
Right. But yeah, I would say if you're doing, say, the Eddie Van Halen thing, where you're single tracking, instead of doing a double tracking guitar, if you're not into that left-right guitar thing, maybe then you got to be a little bit more careful because you're dealing with delay in the sound and certain things that if you pan the main guitar hard left and you have everything else hard right, it's a very unnatural, very weird feeling. In that case, I usually have let's see if I can visualize this. If you got 0 and you got all the way out here is right. I would maybe take the normal one 50 to 60% left, so it's far enough out. It's not right over the top of everything, but it's not so far out that it feels disconnected with the middle. And then my reverb or delay track or whatever was going to create my stereo guitar, that I would hard pan, so it throws it further away so it doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
That's how I would approach it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the classic Van Halen 1 sound was just that, because the producer, I think Ted Templeman, he was like, man, when we pan this in the middle, it sounds everything mono. A 3-piece is a 3-piece, but it sounded mono, so there was no width. So he said, put the guitar on the left and they had those huge plate reverbs. So that's all the way to the right. And that's that famous sound, and everybody started copying it. So.
Or you can go a little older to early Black Sabbath when they had guitar pan to the left and bass pan to the right. It was only drums in the middle. I mean, that was Geezer. A lot of those parts were very guitar-like. They were so cool.
Yeah.
I was listening to it the other day, and I loved that sound. You just hear the drums, you hear the bass over here, you hear the guitar. It's just so much space.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome. So I don't know about don'ts necessarily, to be honest with you. It's be creative with it. You know, break the rules. If it sounds good to you and it doesn't, doesn't mess the image or anything up, then I think it's cool. But play with it, because even just as simple, if we had a basic rock song like this, which is pretty much A, B, A, B, right? Taking the verses in just a little bit and letting the choruses open up hard left and right, those little kind of movements in your mixing kind of augment the arrangement a little bit, can actually help add a lot of excitement. Let's see, what have I missed? Yeah, Ben says he was the one with the question about the lower wattage amps, was definitely thinking of studio use.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
In some ways, you have a lot more control on the lower wattage ones, because you can sit out in front of it and kind of get tones without having your ears have blood come out of them.
And I think also a lot of times if you crank an amp and you don't use rooms, sometimes the resonance of a 4x12 doesn't really come through anyway.
Right.
So if you're close miking everything, it doesn't really matter how loud you crank it. It's just whatever the amp does when you crank it, that's probably the effect you're after. But it's not a volume thing. It's just whatever happens with the amp if you crank it. Maybe it over compresses, the power tubes start grabbing the attack, whatever it is. That's probably why a lot of people say, oh, my tone is when I crank it. It's probably what the amp does to whenever it gets pushed,
Right. It's actually helping.
Yeah.
So
lower wattage, if the amp does that, so if you can crank a 25 watt amp, put it on 11, then you will have the tubes going crazy on you, and then maybe that's the sound you're getting without killing everybody in the room. And that's why our friend Eddie Van Halen took the Variac to bring the wattage down so he wouldn't kill everybody drinking a Mai Tai on the first table.
Right. Yeah, Ty, try that out. I actually keep my overheads, I don't even go 80% out. I'm like 65, maybe 70% at the most, because for my own preference, I like the drums to sound more like if I'm standing in front of them. If I'm even, 4 feet, 5 feet in front of a kit, I don't hear a hi-hat over here and a ride cymbal over here. Things are more like in this range. And I think the drum sets stay thicker and more powerful when they're kind of panned that way. But then when you take the rooms out wide, you can really play with the extra space, and it doesn't get in the way of the guitars. But that's just my thing. I mean, play with it. Let me know how it goes. It sounds like you're mixing a really fun track, though. That's cool. I can't wait to hear it. I think I missed another one. I just saw... Regal Beagle. So generally keep both mics panned together. Okay, yeah. So if this were me doing an album, we wouldn't have multiple mics getting recorded. I'd be summing everything to one channel and going in. So I'd have a left one channel, a right one channel. For this purpose, and I think you like to record them separate. I think that's your preference. Yes, we are on each take, both mics, they're getting panned to the same place. So take one, the 421 and the PR30 both go to the same position. That's the same, right? Yeah. The same thing for the right take. Because there's no benefit of spreading them out because it's a mono sound, really.
Yep.
It's two mics, but it's not a stereo sound. It's pretty much identical. You could argue that a little panning because the mics are picking up a little different would do something.
Yeah.
I think you run the risk of causing other issues there. So, yeah. Long story short, they're panned exactly the same, each take. Yeah, Dakota, play around with it, man. Try to do something outside the norm. If you're used to panning your overheads 100 left and right, pan them 50 and see what happens and put the other instruments around just to get different vibes. You know, you might find that you like them 100 on some things, you like them 50% on another, you like them 70%, depending on what the song is, you know. On minimal miking stuff, I will say when I've only had like 4 or 5 mics on a kit and it's like a 3-piece, then I have, especially if I want everybody to sound like they're in the room together, I have been in the habit of panning things harder left and right. Unless I'm doing a Glenn Johns or something like that, then the left and right, it does not match because the way this mic over here picks up low end compared to this mic so drastically different, you have to pull them in a little bit. But play around with it. You might find that you come up with some cool new ways of doing things.
Also, wasn't that a mixing style, like 70s? They would bring the drums very center, and then, you know, the instruments would be way out.
That's a great question. Probably. I mean,
because
70s was also a very dry era overall.
Because when they start panning, you know, where you hear the tom go.
Well, no, that was early on because early panning, when they got the first pan, they weren't even pan. I was going to say pan pots. They weren't. They were switches. You had center, left, right.
Yeah.
So you put it in 1 of 3 places.
Yeah.
I can't remember what year. Maybe someone on here knows the year when the pan pot were variable came in. But I think a lot of engineers just stayed with the left, right, center because that's where it started. For me personally, especially on a small drum set, hearing if someone does a drum fill, the drummer does a drum fill, hearing the tom in this ear, or the rack tom here, and the floor tom here, drives me insane. That's not a no, I'm sorry. That's not how a drum set sounds. I know you could throw this back at me that some of the most famous mixers on the planet are left, right, center guys, and I love all their mixes, or a lot of them anyway. So obviously that. But just for me as a drummer, I don't hear it that way. That's it. I'm not going to argue the merits. I think Bob Clearmountain's mixes are fantastic. He's a left, right, center guy. And I'm still jealous at how he mixes, and I wish I could do that. Yeti, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Glad we're being able to help out. Michael S., this is off topic on this, but we'll do it anyway if we had a chance to check out Luna at all. We talked about that a couple weeks ago on the broadcast. We saw it at NAMM and sat through a couple demonstrations, but that's as far as we've got to I haven't got to get my hands on it at all.
Yeah.
You know, you actually have the hardware, so we may be able to do that at some point. But, all right. Got any questions? Okay, before we wrap up, if we have any questions pertaining to this stuff, shoot them in here. Let's talk. This is just 3 ways. We'll get some. I think we'll look into getting some of the lower wattage amps and do that. There's some other things I want to do with multiple amp setups that can be kind of fun. All of this stuff, again, to reiterate, these are just techniques that are not exclusive to having an amp. Obviously, you can do them with whatever your setups are. I love this. The guitar pedal is the amp kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You can have 3 or 4 pedals and go through them and get all these different amp sounds. Plus, you get the reaction of an amp and the chaos that comes through the tubes and all that, which I also love.
Oh, and then for a future broadcast, what are we doing with the signal, right? So we can do what? Reamping.
Yeah, we're going to do some reamping. So we are splitting the signal. We're going to go through that in depth in a few weeks. This is our last week of 2 broadcasts a week. We're going to go to Tuesdays starting next week. We are going to do an in-depth reamp broadcast. We're going to talk about our schedules later tonight and see when we want to do that. I still have one to build. I got one from DIY Recording that I'm going to build, that I will shoot video of me putting that together. That will be an on-demand video. And then we're going to add that in with the Little Labs here. He just got a JCR, the radial, and we'll see what else we can get to do that, to hear how different they all sound. because we did some reamping. There's another series coming out from this new song, Circus Tuesday, that we have that Rick Fiorabracci played bass on. We have another mini series. It'll be a 3 or 4-parter. Won't be quite as big as the Probably Not one, but we did some reamping on all the guitars, and we used the JCR, so you get to hear what that sounds like. And there was something else we did there that was kind of cool.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Well, the videos, they'll be out in the next week or so, so you'll get to see it then. But yeah, we are going to go in depth on this, how to track when you're going DI only, or if you want to split the sound, that sort of thing. We'll talk about all that stuff soon. Very, very soon. Tuesday. Wait, let me see if there's anything. Yeah, UA plugins are amazing, but so expensive. I agree.
Yeah. But it's the closest you're ever going to get to a $10,000 Shadow Hills by paying only $300. So.
Yep. No, it is cheaper than that. But some of the prices on those are pretty close to what the hardware prices are. Ario, saw your radio ecstasy video. Is there a reamp box that is also a load box?
I don't know. I think there's one or two. I don't know which model it is, but some of them have the load box plus the reamp thing in them.
I'm gonna research that.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head. That's a fantastic question.
Yeah, I mean there's a couple of models because all the impulse responses and people going direct in and using all these reactive loads. There's many more models coming out. So people are just starting to flood the market with this.
Yeah,
so,
I see that being, in the future, very, very.
Yeah, it's gonna be big.
Thursday. This guy right here. I'm gonna build this thing in front of all y'all. You're gonna get to see my fantastic soldering skills with a steady hand. We're also gonna have Matt from Mic Parts and Roswell Pro Audio. He's gonna join us on the broadcast to talk about building mics, talking about building a mic locker. He has a lot of great tips on that. It's gonna be great. Bring your questions, anything you have, not just about mic building, but about mics in general. He's fantastic. We're also gonna be giving one of these away. I will have the details on how we're gonna do that soon. The one thing I know is you'll have to be a subscriber to the channel to be eligible to enter, and that's gonna be it. After that, I'll let you know Thursday how we're gonna take down names. I got an idea, but we'll have all the details on Thursday. So we're gonna build this sucker. Matt's gonna join us. We're gonna give one of these away. It's gonna be freaking awesome. And I'm gonna see if I can build that in an hour.
There you go. Without burning yourself.
Without burning the PCB or anything else. Matt said it can be done, so he's put me on the spot, so I better be able to do it. You guys, thanks for joining us. This has been fun. These 2 weeks have been great. We're gonna go down to 1 a week, but we're gonna make sure we're gonna have great topics. We've been keeping track of all the questions from everyone, so we've been writing things down to come up with more good ideas. Always open to hearing more. Please go to the Facebook group. I believe if you go down to the description of this video, there is a link to that group. It's private for just all of us. Join it. That way we can share photos of studios, videos, all that great stuff. There's already a few up there. Ty the sound guy has a great video of his 22 mic setup on there. There's a couple other nice videos and photos of some setups. It's a way that we can kind of interact in between all these broadcasts that we can't, in a way we can't do on, what's this thing called? YouTube.
Yes.
Oh, I need coffee, man. See, I've been out since 5 minutes into the broadcast. Obsidian says he has faith in my mic build.
Yes.
Hey, the first one I built worked. First time I plugged it in, so I've got faith too. It'll be cool. We'll get to see how it sounds and see how easy it is to actually do it.
Well, I mean, you had to resolder freaking patch cables, right?
Look, you don't need to bring that up in front of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know how many cables and snakes I've made in the last... I hit spacebar and switched over. All these snakes, a couple of them were to put new cables in, a couple of them were to fix... I had a couple things pinned incorrectly that are now correct.
Things that had to be fixed. I mean, but yeah, you did a lot of soldering. Yeah.
And I still have one more. There's a box right in front of me on the table with 48 TRS ends in there. 24 of them are going to the new channel insert snake that I'll be building in the next few days.
Yeah. This is the one thing, if you like the whole board thing, the real hardware, man, the money that goes away in cables, oh.
Oh, man, I don't even know when to know. It would have to be... It would be upwards of 15 grand in cables here,
Yeah.
probably close to 20 grand in cables if we would
Because
have bought everything.
that's the one thing you forget. It's, oh, I got all this great gear. I got my board. It's like, yeah, but you got to connect everything now.
Yeah, if it was wireless, it'd be so easy. Regal Beagle says, looking forward for a bass tracking broadcast.
Okay.
We're going to do that. I got a couple guys that I think would be fun to bring in and do that with, actually. So we will do that. I am also going to do I'm actually doing this tomorrow with Rick. We're doing a Skype call. I'm going to record it, the walkthrough of his setup that he used for the Circus Tuesday, and all those videos will start coming out next week. So we'll get to see his workflow at home. But yeah, we'll do something beyond DI. I like that. We're going to I know exactly who we're going to bring in and do some stuff with. So cool. You guys, thank you. As always, it's been fantastic. We'll see you on Thursday. You got anything, go join the Facebook group. Link is down in the description. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So enjoy quarantine like we all do.
Yeah. These hangs have been fun. All right, everybody. See you later.